Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today I have the pleasure to be joined by none other than Robert Belcham. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for making time. I know, like I said before we turned the mics on, you are extremely busy right now. You've got umpteen things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure do.
We'll dive into that in a second. The first question I wanted to ask, and I usually start this podcast off with, is the how, the what, the where, the why, you and food. So take us back as far as you can to how you came to be so aligned with this industry and so aligned with food.
That's a good question. Where to start? I guess it started when I was really young. I was my mother was a horrible cook, and I've told the story many times. She was a horrible cook, I was an avid TV watcher. I loved to watch TV, and found PBS and every cooking show on it, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
It's so cool. Like, had no idea what it was about, or where this food came from, or this whole world was there, and I had no idea about it. And it was like Justin Wilson, the great chefs of New Orleans, Julia Child, all that sort of stuff. And it was so different than what I grew up eating, and they were so in love with food, and it was so different than what I was used to. Right. I was just like, this is so cool. And so I started cooking, and this is like when I was 11, 12 years old. And so I just started cooking from the show, and just kept on doing it. You know, whenever I saw a new show, I saw something I wanted to try, I would go to the grocery store with my mom and get the ingredients and come home and try it. Nice. Sometimes she liked it. Most of the time she didn't. But my dad was always super, super supportive of it. Nice. And I never thought of it as a career ever. And I was moving to Victoria from Edmonton, and I thought I was looking through my girlfriend at the time. She was going to college, Camosun College, and she had a calendar. And I just was flipping through it one day, waiting for her, and I saw cook training, and I'd never even considered it before in my life. Right. And I read it, and it sounded pretty interesting, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'm just graduated high school.
Right.
You know, I don't want to work in construction, which I had been doing. Okay. So I gave it a try, and the first day of class, I was with Mr. Dober, an old German chef, and I was just blown away by the whole thing, and it opened up this whole world to me that I'd never known before. Okay. And sort of the rest is history. I just went, and it was like best in class. Totally dove into it. I actually excelled at it more than I had in anything scholastically before, and just dove in, and I haven't looked back since. I've just been going for 25 years now.
Amazing. Yeah. And I find from my time in the industry, when I was working in restaurants and bars and working mostly front of house, I found it to be very tiring and very thankless as well. The industry can be very thankless. So how do you stay motivated, stay inspired after 25 years of being in this, what can be a very thankless industry? Yeah,
well, absolutely. It's incredibly thankless. It's interesting. You sort of get addicted to it a little bit. And for me at the beginning, it was very much, you're creating something from raw ingredients, and you're creating something delicious and beautiful, and then you're serving it to people, and it makes them happy. Right. And you know, they have a big smile on their face, and they come to celebrate their birthday with you. They come to celebrate their anniversary, their first kiss, their first date. Right. You're always trying to get somebody laid. It's to me, it's a really great job, and that was enough for me for years, and I loved, you know, building menus and coming into new restaurants and trying to, you know, make them better than when I got there. Yeah. And but you know, I don't know, for the last 10 years or so, I spent more time sort of trying to develop different restaurants. Right. So I've been building restaurants really for the last 10 years as a restaurateur, not just as a chef, but as a restaurateur, to try, you know, every aspect of it. Right. And that's what's really kept me motivated and moving forward, is doing those types of things. Right. You know, conceptualizing a restaurant and coming up with the menu, and then trying to figure out how to make it happen. Right. And that's been it's incredibly challenging, and it drains you, but it's so much fun. Yeah. And it's what I love to do. So
I can assume it'd be like having a kid, which I'm going through right now. It's just like, there's times when you're so frustrated and challenged, but then you have that moment It's like that golf shot that you hit. Do you know what I mean? That
Yeah,
keeps
exactly.
keeps you coming back.
Or the perfect slap shot, or
Yeah, exactly.
I know exactly what you're saying, and it's when the whole restaurant is running on all cylinders, everybody's happy, the kitchen's happy, the front of the house is making money, they're happy, the customers are stoked, people are walking out with smiles on their faces, and you're just like, now I can go home and go to bed.
Yeah, exactly, and actually sleep.
And actually sleep.
Yeah, it's kind of like that they talk about a lot now. I hear people saying like the flow state. It's almost like, and you can tell for me when I've worked in the space, and then now as a consumer in the space, you can tell when a restaurant is in flow.
Absolutely, you can see it very easily when you walk in. It's funny because it was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, it seemed like it was easier to see. It's more of a challenge now than ever, I think. But the restaurants that do it well, you can really, really tell. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge with staff, and it's a challenge with training, and it's a challenge with just, running a business in Vancouver in 2018. It's not an easy thing. Yeah. So I think it's a bit more challenging, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I've said this many times in this podcast, but those that do it well do it really well, mm-hmm. and that's what I think. That's what I think the economy and industry is what you have is people come into the industry and they open up restaurants, they open up businesses, brick and mortar, whatever. And then the consumer has the opportunity to go out and shop with their dollars. And what eventually happens is the cream rises to the top.
Yeah, I've said that many times myself. And it's funny because, a great restaurant today, which is like in the flow state, running on all cylinders, can be great on a Monday, but a month later, because certain key people have left or whatever, it's not that way anymore. Yeah. It's always in flux. It's constantly in flux, and there's the only constant in the restaurant business is change. Yeah, it's how you stay ahead of it and how you work within it, and that's the hard part. So you always have to be moving and dodging and
Well, I've always looked at it like the service aspect of it, both front of house and back of house, and also the business aspect of it as like a dance. Like you constantly have to understand what your partner, being your consumer, what the industry needs. Yeah. So you're constantly having to be, I don't want to say you can't ever relax, but I think if I was a restaurateur and I felt super chilled and super relaxed, then my antenna would start feeling, what's going on right now? Something must be up.
Yeah. What I like to say to my managerial staff all the time is we always have to be pushing forward. Mm-hmm. It's the number one thing. Right. Is we cannot rest on our laurels. We can't rest on the last great dish we did. We have to be thinking about the dish we're doing tomorrow and the service we're doing tomorrow every day. Because if you don't do that, then you get left behind. It's just as simple as that.
There's a saying that a coach of mine uses, and it's "don't eat the cheese." And what he means by that is, don't get too excited on your last dish. Yeah. Like you got to be ready to push the boundaries again tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
Or don't get too settled on that great service you had last night. Like let's crush it next Friday. Yeah. And let's be even better than we were.
That's the thing. And that's what it's interesting that in this business is that you can never attain perfection. It's impossible. Yeah. But striving for it every day is what you have to do. And to try to keep motivated, striving for that perfection every day, that's what is the hardest thing to do, and it's also the hardest thing for managers to instill in their cooks and in their service. Right. To be able to push every day to be able to make that happen.
Exactly.
It's difficult.
How do you do that? If we can dive into that for a second. I know a few of my guests on this show and friends that I have in the industry that have multiple locations or one location. One of the biggest challenges they have is that message resonating with a lot of their staff. And right now, I don't think Vancouver is very different from other major cities in the world, but having major issues with staffing. Yes. So how do you and your management team, how do you guys approach making sure that your kind of vision resonates with people and your desire for them to be pushing boundaries every day? How do you guys do that? Or do you have a particular method?
Well, it's interesting is I learned a long time ago when it comes to managing people, you have to be able to figure out what each individual needs. Some people need to have a pot thrown at them, and some people need to have a cuddle. Everybody is different, right? And the greatest managers are able to see that right away, and then give the person what they want to push, to make them to push them so that they're figuring out things better than what they were the day before. You push them to be better every day, and then they take that challenge and they run with it. So that it's those little tiny things at the beginning, and then it just grows and grows and grows. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes one single staff member can sort of spoil the whole soup kind of thing. And so we spend a lot of time trying to find the right staff, but unfortunately, like you just said, in this business nowadays, it's sort of like you just need a body.
It's feast or famine right now.
It is, and so it's more challenging than it's ever been before to try to get people to drink the proverbial Kool-Aid,
Right.
for your particular restaurant. We tell an interesting story here, and what we have always tried to do, and what we strive to do. Some people get it, some people don't, and the people who don't usually aren't successful here, and they move on pretty quickly. The
Right.
people who get it stay, and they champion it.
Right. Do you empower, or do you find that you maybe consciously or subconsciously empower people to make a name for themselves in the industry? And the reason I ask is because I find that in a lot of different types of business, but specifically the restaurant business, there can be this, I guess, idea of almost like ownership. So say, for example, say I was working underneath you as one of your kitchen managers. I was a head chef at one of your spaces. And I came to you and I said, look, thank you so much for the opportunity, but I want to go open up my own Brad's Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's going to frustrate you because it puts a kind of a kink in your plans in regards to staffing and all those things. But do you celebrate that? Do you champion that? Are you excited by maybe you facilitating someone having the gall and the balls to go out and do that?
Absolutely. It's like I said before, there's nothing but change in this industry. No one ever stays at this job forever. And you do everything you can to make people as successful as possible while they're with you. And you want them to move on one day and do the same thing that you did. And then hopefully they teach their staff the same things that you taught them.
Right.
And I tried to help. I mean, I've had so many cooks, so many chefs, so many front of the house managers, servers and stuff move on. And because it's been 25 years.
Yeah.
And, I've had some people open restaurants. I've had some people close restaurants. I've had people who go to a completely different industry.
Right.
But everybody's a little bit different, and what you're trying to do is always instill in them, a sense of, trying to accomplish something and trying to push forward and to try to do something that's interesting and new. And some people are successful at it, and some people aren't.
Right.
I mean, you sort of give them the tools that you think that they need, and either they learn how to fly or they fall out of the tree. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
And some are successful and some aren't.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, exactly.
If we can change speeds for a second and talk now about your newest project.
Yes, Popina.
Yeah, Popina. So for those of you that are local, it is now up and running and open on Granville Island. So do get down and check it out. Robert was saying how incredibly busy they've been, above expectations, which I was saying is kind of a good problem to have. But Robert was saying, I mean, I want to feed those people, and they've traveled and they've waited. So
yeah,
I get that from from just like a bottom of your heart. You want to provide for those people. But one thing I found really interesting in kind of watching Popina become what it is having you and the other chefs that are involved in the project come together. Because I find a lot of times in this industry, people can operate in silos.
yes, definitely.
So can you one, give your opinion on why it is so innate to the industry for people want to operate in silos, and then two, paint the picture for us of how Popina and this team came to come together and kind of knock down those walls that existed before?
Well, the reason why people operate in silos in this industry, and not just this one, but lots of industries, it's ego.
Yeah.
People have big egos and they think that they can do it better than everybody else.
Right.
The four of us came together. It's myself, Joel Watanabe, Hamid Saliman, and Angus Ann, all came together. And the thing that brought us together is I think is that we have a massive amount of mutual respect for each other. That's
Right.
number one.
Okay.
And our egos are in check
Right.
to a degree. I mean, everybody has
You have to have an ego. Yeah. Ego's good sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
to a certain extent.
to a certain extent, as long as you don't let it go out of control.
Exactly.
And I think that fact that we were sort of all on the same page with ego, mutual respect, and this desire to do something interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so this Popina project has been a very long gestating thing. It's been in the works for almost 4.5 years.
Oh my
now.
God. Wow.
Yeah. And we came together first we had this idea of like doing 4 different concepts within the same space
Right.
to try to give people more choice. And then we were like, okay, well, if we do that, why don't we have the same commissary kitchen? And then we're like, well, then we could have the same managers. And then
Right.
then we're like, oh, fuck it. We'll just have the same restaurant. Let's
Right.
just build our own restaurant.
Yeah.
That's sort of how it happened for us. And, after lots of research trips and lots of meetings and tastings and
Right.
cooking together and stuff, we were able to try to finally figure out what to do with Popina, and
Right.
and now it's open.
And are you happy with the finished product?
Yeah, absolutely we are. I mean, the food is something we wanted to set out. We set out to do something that had never really been done before, and that's bring 4 chefs together to try to create food for the masses.
Right.
And there's lots of reasons why it hasn't happened. Number 1 probably is ego. Number 2 is like, nobody's. I don't think anybody's ever tried to do food of this quality for fast food.
Yeah.
It's just never really happened before.
Yeah.
And then the what's made it so awesome is our collaboration with Granville Island, and that they offered us this space because they saw the potential for what we were trying to do.
Right.
And they were like, here, not have this, but
Yeah.
here's an opportunity for you. This is what we want to do. We have this great piece of property we want to build a restaurant on. Would you like to be our tenant? And we were like, Jesus,
Yes.
it's like one of the most beautiful spaces on
Yeah.
Granville Island.
Yeah.
Never been touched before. It was a parking lot overlooking the water, overlooking Falls Creek. And we
Yeah.
were like, of course we want to do it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. And so we had all these things sort of align and fall into place. And now we have this brand new little baby that we're trying to, feed and
grow
and
change the diaper. And
exactly. And it's been a massive challenge, but it's been fun as hell. And there's no bunch of guys I would have rather done it with. It's been awesome. What's so great about it is when you try to build a restaurant on your own, it's all on you.
Right.
And there's a million decisions to make when you're building a restaurant, from the cutlery and plateware to who gets paid what, to what the menu is, and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Right.
With these guys, whatever was sort of like, we just sort of
Like strengths.
straight, like we just went back and forth, and whatever Hamid was really good at, he would take care of. Whatever Angus was really good, he took care of. Whatever
Right.
I was good at, I took care of. Whatever Joel,
Yeah.
back and forth. And if something got dropped, somebody was right behind the other person to pick it up
Right.
and keep on running with it. And that support system for like, there's over 100 years of experience in us four, and to have that support behind you it's been an amazing experience.
That's so cool. For me, the way you describe it almost sounds like this underground fight club / like mastermind of these chefs,
Yeah.
which for those of you that aren't local, these gentlemen, if I can, Robert, for a second, are like, they are setting new standards, like you were saying, like pushing boundaries. That's what these gentlemen have done for years in the industry. They're
Yes.
very established. They're well known. They have successful brands underneath their belt. So seeing you guys come together for me was exciting, but also I was wondering, like, how much would that come into play? How much would ego come into play?
Mm-hmm.
And one other question I had for you in regards to the dynamics of the group, was there ever a point where someone else wanted to come on board, where you thought, you know what, or not you, but the collective thought, you know what, guys, 4 is kind of our number and we can't go further? Or was it just kind of, it happened and no one else kind of knocked on the door and it was what it was?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Angus, I think, was the one who sort of facilitated it all. He was the one who had the idea. Angus is definitely our ideas guy for sure, and he has 5 different restaurants already. And he sort of brought us all together because he was friends with. I knew Hamid and I knew Joel, but we'd never really hung up before, and
Right.
It was sort of Angus has been the bit of the glue.
Yeah.
No other. We didn't think about. We with us 4, we had all of our bases covered, so we didn't think of reaching out to another chef. We didn't need to,
Okay.
and we thought it worked well. The dynamic was good, and nobody else asked. So it was like, okay, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys were, this just came to me, I don't know why, if you guys were a rock band, 4-piece rock band, who's playing what?
Oh,
who's lead
Jesus.
guitar? Who's lead singer? Who's playing bass? And who's keeping the beat on the drums?
That's a good question. I would say that the person on the drums keeping the beat, like keeping the band going all day long, is Hamid for sure.
Cool.
He keeps us together and he keeps us tight. Angus is definitely the lead singer because
Okay.
he is he's the idea guy. He's the front man for sure.
Right.
And then it's a toss up between if I'm playing bass or Joel is, or back and forth.
Back and forth.
between lead guitar and bass, I think.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, the model itself, like you mentioned, is and I'm going to use just the term fast food for lack of a better term, or like QSR, quick service model, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Was that something that you guys, as a team, knew you wanted to get into? Because right now the spaces that you currently occupy are very much your traditional quote unquote restaurants where it's brick and mortar. You come in, you sit down, there's a waiter or a waitress, and it's an experience.
Yep.
So this was something that you guys were very cognizant of going into, this QSR model?
Yes, absolutely. We wanted to have a place that we could feed more people. Like we each have our different restaurants. We feed about 100 people a night, roughly, depending on the restaurant. And we wanted to do something where we could feed, 500 people a day or 700 people a day.
Right.
To bring this idea that fast food has to be garbage.
Right.
That it's just something to fill your face because you're so fucking hungry.
Yeah.
Is an antiquated model. It doesn't work anymore. And the idea that food has to be so incredibly cheap doesn't work anymore either. And we all understand why if you've read the news in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So this, why not bring really high quality, good food with integrity to the masses? No one's ever done it successfully before, and we're going to try it. And we have enough experience behind us to make it happen, and the supply chains and the know-how and the gumption to make it happen.
Do you see a problem at all with the success of this quick service restaurant model? And what I mean by that is, because it is becoming so popular, do you see it filling the space for like what we're sitting in right now and taking away from the quote unquote experience? So if I show up to Papina today and I make my order, I get my food. Sorry, I pay for my food. I get my food, and then kind of my interaction is done with you in the business, aside from just sitting down and eating the food and sharing it with whoever I'm sharing it with.
Yep.
Whereas if I was to come here or to Joel's restaurant, whatever it may be, there's a lot more touch points that you can make to really get your message across.
Absolutely.
So do you think that's a challenge for your brand and others like it now, like Popina? And if so, how do you facilitate filling in those gaps that you don't have to when people come and sit down for 45 minutes or an hour here?
Right. And that's a great question. And I think it goes down to the customer. The customer dictates where people eat, what they want to eat.
Right.
And, McDonald's has been full for 50 years.
They're doing something right.
They're doing something right. They obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to be able to fill, that sector of that market with something that hasn't been done before. And people want it, and so who we say no. Right. Who says you have to come in and sit down and at a white tablecloth or and have a bottle of wine? I mean, that's how I love to dine. Right. But I also sometimes go to McDonald's and get a burger, because I'm starving and I'm on the go. Yeah. Everybody eats differently every day, and we just wanted to give people a better choice. Yeah. That was really what it was about.
Yeah, I think for me it's almost like I don't want for there to ever be a day where this brick and mortar model doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like it's just for me it's like so romantic, like you were saying, like first dates, first kisses, all those things. I just find this space is how I define hospitality, because it's what I know most. Yes. But like you said, the masses are voting, and right now they enjoy that ability to go and shop quickly, get it quick.
I think they enjoy the options. They like the options of being able to do something quick, right? And they also enjoy the idea of sitting down and having a 2.5 hour dinner, right, with their significant other or whoever. Yeah. Or they want to come in and have 15 minutes, or you even have the opportunity at Popina, which is interesting because we still have that idea that we love the idea of dining. So one of the things that we have there is seafood, a lot of seafood. Yeah. So we'll have a seafood platter for like 4 people. Right. And you can get a bottle of sparkling wine, you can get a seafood platter for 4 people.
Beautiful.
And then, crack open the lobster and the crab and then drink some sparkling wine on a patio, on the water on Falls Creek in the middle of the summer. That was sort of like, well, who doesn't love to do that? Yeah. And if you don't,
it's all good.
If you don't, you're a heathen. You know what I mean? And it's like, so we have the opportunity to do that. You have the opportunity to just go and get a burger and fries and get out, or you can sit around and
make it an experience.
And make it an experience.
Right.
Because that's sort of, that we know for a fact, because we've been in the business for so long, that some of the best meals you can have in the world are like at the back of a taco truck on the side of the road.
You're so right.
Or in a 3 Michelin star restaurant in the middle of Paris. Yeah. It's time and place. That's all it's about, and the people you're with. Yeah. And that's what makes a great dining experience. And we just want to help facilitate it any way we possibly can.
So cool. So speaking of an awesome menu item like that, what else in the menu down at Popina right now really excites you? Like you're like really jazzed about?
Well, it's the seafood is the number one thing for me. I mean, sort of the bread and butter for my restaurants lately, last year or two, has been burgers. People love our burger upstairs in the Monarch Burger we just opened a year ago. People, and then Popina's burger, people are loving that too. But it's the seafood. I started my Vancouver. I was a sous chef and then became chef at a seafood restaurant here called Sea, and I was there from 2000 to 2005.
Okay.
Or 2002 2005, sorry. And so I mean, it was all about sustainable seafood, and I love working with seafood.
Yeah.
We're right on the coast. How could you not?
Yeah.
And we have some of the most beautiful seafood in the world here.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to explore it and champion it and just like have a big celebration about it? It's amazing stuff. And so when we were trying to think of a way to make our restaurant Popina sort of unique to Granville Island, we went to a bunch of the restaurants on Granville Island, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus whatsoever here, but we thought we could bring our fine dining know-how with seafood to a fast food environment.
Right.
And that was with our supply chains and with how we prepare seafood and different things we could do to it that's unique. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did, and that's what's so exciting to me about it. So you can get, there's very few places you can get a super fresh, beautifully cooked, fresh Dungeness crab that's just been steamed with parsley chervil butter, or same with a lobster or a whole seafood platter. There's not a lot of places, which is funny around Vancouver. Yeah, you think you'd be able to get it everywhere, but you can't, and especially not sitting on the water.
Yeah, definitely. Coming back to the comment we made about ego.
Yes.
I've always been intrigued by it. I don't know who said it or where I heard it, but I heard the quote, or heard someone say, an entrepreneur is someone who sees something being done and thinks they can do it better. Now, I don't think that is like I'm all high and mighty and watch me go, but I think there has to be a bit of that when you want to open up a new restaurant in a space that used to be a parking lot, in a space that is covered by restaurants. So when you guys went and took stock of, again, not throwing anyone underneath the bus, but when you went and took stock of what the choices were down in Granville Island,
yes,
did you either have the internal thought, or did you guys discuss it amongst yourselves and be like, boys, we can absolutely crush this? Is that ever the conversation that you're having?
Absolutely. Of course. I mean, you have to do that whenever as a restaurateur, you have to do that every time you want to open up a new restaurant. Even when you're taking stock of the restaurant you already have, you have to take a look at who else is moving in on the block. Yeah. You have to go and try their food, and you make an assessment. Is our food as good as theirs or better? Right. And it better be better, or you're not going to be in business for very long.
Exactly.
And so, of course we thought that we could do our seafood better than anybody else on Granville Island, or we would never even have attempted to do it. Right. I mean, that's what an entrepreneur does, is they try to figure out a way to make things happen more efficiently, better product, and make people happier. Like Henry Ford invented that.
Exactly.
Over 100 years ago. Yeah. And that's sort of that's the exact conversation we had, is like, how can we make this so much better than what's already available? And I think we did. Yeah. I mean, but the customers will tell us, if they're in there every day having seafood, we know we did something right. And so far, 3 days in, it's looking pretty good. Yeah. Like you said, you're selling out already, which is obviously a good sign. Yeah. Exactly.
How do you adjust on the fly? Not to keep putting a long tail on this kite of Popina, but I think it's so exciting being as it's so new. Yes. How do you adjust and facilitate the exceeding business that you're having? Like, you're going above and beyond what you thought you were going to do. So how do you guys kind of adapt and stay on your toes with that?
That's exactly that. You have to, or you die. It's like you have to adapt. You every day you see how many you sold, and you readjust your par levels for the next day, and then you work your fucking ass off. It's really, there's nothing else you can do. Right. You sort of, it's the same as any restaurant. You have to figure out, you have your busy days of the week and you have your slow days of the week, and you adjust accordingly. And we have to do the same thing with this brand new restaurant. We're much busier than we thought we would be when we first started off. We really had no idea, because there'd been no restaurant there before. And, people are super excited right now. So, we're getting crushed a little bit, but that's okay. It's okay. Embrace it. Exactly. Doesn't last forever.
No, exactly. So make hay while the sun's shining. One thing I wanted to touch on before we move on is competition.
Yes.
And competition is industry. And you mentioned about, like, if someone opens up down the street, you want to go and try their food to make sure that you are doing it better. And someone I know that owns multiple businesses, not in this industry, but he welcomes competition. He welcomes competition on his block because he feels like it makes him and his team step their game up every single day.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely, I do. It's important. Healthy competition is a good thing, and it really helps you assess what your customer base is really looking for.
Right.
It's interesting on West 4th when I had my restaurant Fuel there, my first restaurant, and that was back in 2006, and we sold it in 2013. It was interesting to see the neighborhood change, and it went from just a few mom and pop restaurants. Fuel, actually Angus had Gastropod right beside me. We opened at the same time. And then it slowly started to change, and then different things came in. So like Italian Kitchen and the Noodle Box and Romer's Burger Bar. So these sort of more QSR style restaurants came in, and people stopped coming to Fuel as much. We became more of a destination place or a celebration.
Like an occasion.
An occasion place.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what we had set out to do, but we had to adapt or we had to die.
Yeah.
And so instead of closing the restaurant down, we changed from Fuel to Refuel to be more adaptable and more fun and interesting, and changed the menu more and lower price point because that's what the customer base was asking for.
Right.
Angus did the same thing. His main nom has been much more successful than Refuel ever was, and he hit it out of the park. He was like, it's the best Thai food in the city by far.
Right.
And it's what everybody wanted, and he's full every day.
Every day. And just crushing it.
Crushing it.
Do you enjoy that aspect of the business, like going from Fuel to Refuel, like just the sitting down and brainstorming and going like, hey, what can we do?
Yeah.
And I think more of like that to me is like more of a marketing side of things. Like, does that intrigue you? Does that excite you as well?
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's always about moving forward and trying to refine your business and refine your business model. How can you do that? And there's lots of ways you can, adjust your food cost, labor cost. You can't really change your rent, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, you can always, adjust things, how much you're spending on marketing, how much you're not. And then sometimes you need a rebrand. And for everybody thought of Fuel as a super high-end fine dining restaurant, which it really wasn't. But that was the perception. So it was our job to change it.
Right.
If we didn't change it, we would have had to close. So we adapted and we changed and we moved forward. And that's what's interesting for us. And we do it like I've done it all the time, like because I just think it's fun. And so like I'll give you an example here at Campagnolo. We had this upstairs space that we used for private parties for a long time, and it was used once a week ish for parties. And we were like, this is dumb. We have this beautiful space. Let's utilize it more. So we turned it into a bar. Yeah. And it's been gangbusters ever since we opened it, and we're coming up on almost. I think it's almost 4 years, 3.5 years, 4 years now, something like that. And it's like, even within the space that you have, sometimes you can just adjust and change a little bit and then bring in all this new business.
The home of the Dirty Burger.
The home of the Dirty, that's right.
If you haven't had it or heard of it, just Google the Dirty Burger and it'll be the first hit up there. And if you're local, please get in and try it. Burgers are big right now.
Yes.
But another burger is also very big right now. I don't know if you know the burger I'm going to talk about. It is the A&W Beyond Meat Burger. Yeah. And it's come up now on my last, I guess, like 4 or 5 podcasts. I had a vegan on the other day, and she was super excited about it. And I've had omnivores on, and they're kind of on the fence about it. Yep. As someone who seemingly has their finger on the pulse of all things burgers and seemingly is a passionate man when it comes to eating his burgers. Yep. How do you feel about where the burger is today? Yep. And then what are your thoughts on this Beyond Meat option that A&W has adapted and offered in their space? Well,
from a truly or simply entrepreneurial aspect, what A&W did, I thought was it's very, very intelligent, very smart, They looked at what the market wanted.
Right. And
they reacted. They saw the sector that wasn't being fulfilled, and then they filled it. And people are loving it, except for the guy who found out that there's eggs and mayo or whatever. Except for that guy. But personally, like as a chef, I don't know if it's exactly the same burger or not, because I haven't had time to really research it. But I had something in the States. We did this research trip to Portland, and I tried this Impossible Burger.
The one that bleeds?
The one that bleeds.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same, but I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So it's a vegan burger made from plant protein, very highly processed,
Right.
like unbelievably processed, like grown in a lab kind of
Yeah.
thing. Not grown, but
Yeah.
processed in a lab.
Yeah.
And it's become extremely popular in the States. But basically, it's a vegan burger that, because of the way they manipulate everything, it bleeds and cooks like a regular burger.
Right.
And I tell you, I sat down and I ordered it. I was super excited to try it, and then I cut it open. It bled, and I was looking at it, and I ate it, and I gagged, and I gagged because I'm like, in my head,
It should be a burger.
I'm just like, vegetables shouldn't bleed.
Oh, okay. Right.
That's why I was like,
Yeah.
why in the fuck?
Just a mind fuck.
Yeah, and I was like, if you really want a burger, you should have a fucking burger.
Yeah.
You shouldn't try to. And then I went all these things from my past of all the places I cooked. So it's like, let's do tempeh and make it taste like a Reuben, and
Right.
or let's make, these tofu balls taste like meatballs, and I'm just
Right.
like,
It's never going to be that.
it's never going to be a burger. Like the best
Yeah.
burger in the world is, like Hank Hill said, it's just like a charcoal. It's like, it's just a beef burger.
Yeah.
It's just grilled. It's simple.
Yeah.
And that's why it tastes so good.
Yeah.
But when you try to make something that isn't into something else, it just never really works. And if you made the choice to be vegan, which is it's
Yeah.
an amazing choice. It's
Yeah.
your choice, and never doubt anybody that, or
You're not challenging them.
not challenging them at all.
Yeah.
But you sort of giving up your right to eat burgers anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's made from beef.
Yeah.
It's like I just don't understand it as a chef.
Yeah.
As a chef.
And as someone who eats burgers, just as a guy who eats burgers.
Yeah, lots of burgers.
It reminds me of a book I read a while ago, and I don't know if this resonates with you at all, but it's called The Whole30 Diet. It's a lifestyle of eating all whole foods, so nothing processed, nothing out of a package. So I'm sure basically like you would eat on a regular day. Like
Yeah,
whole
absolutely.
meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But one of the chapters, the author talks about sex with your pants on. So what she means by that is, don't try and go and make a cauliflower crust pizza, because it's never going to be as good as a pizza.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't try and turn a chicken wing, like have a vegan. The vegan chicken wing is never going to be as good as a chicken wing.
That's right.
So it's always going to be like sex with your pants on.
Yeah.
Never as good as the real thing.
Absolutely.
And I find that very tongue in cheek, but I find it also very accurate.
Absolutely. It's no different than gluten-free pizza.
Yeah.
Or vegan cheese. It's like, there's just some things that can't be replicated. And,
Right.
and I'm going to piss off Hamid, because Hamid owns
Yeah,
a gluten-free
exactly.
flour company.
Yeah.
But like a gluten-free bread, to me, doesn't taste like bread. It tastes like something completely different.
Yeah.
It's the same with the idea of having a gluten-free vegan pizza is like,
Why are we having pizza?
Why are we having pizza? Like you
Yeah.
you have to have pizza with a dough, a flour dough,
Yeah.
and some cheese and some pepperoni, and then that's pizza. That's what pizza is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But the idea of gluten free or a vegan
Mock something.
just
Yeah.
doesn't work for me. I just don't understand it.
Again, I've mentioned on the show a few times, and I'll do it again. I don't know if you've ever been to Chow Veggie Express. Unfortunately, I'm not a massive fan of the Granville Island one, which you may come to know soon, spending so much time down there. But there's one up on Victoria and past 33rd.
Okay.
So it's a vegan. I'm gonna absolutely butcher this, but I'm gonna say it's like an Indonesian, Asian-inspired cuisine.
Yeah.
That to me, as an omnivore, is completely satiating, and I'm happy going and eating their food, because it is just that. It's just whole vegetables,
Yeah, I mean-
gorgeous broth. Like it's
Well, that's-
stuff I can associate with.
That's what's so interesting too to me is like you can have unbelievably delicious vegan food, like Brian Skinner, the people at the Acorn.
Yes, yeah.
They make unbelievable food there, and they aren't trying to make something like they aren't trying to make a meat substitute. That's not what they do. They take
Right.
vegetables and they make them delicious.
Yeah.
And you can make delicious vegan food, but you don't have to make vegan wieners to make to satiate yourself. Just have fucking wiener.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. One thing that I do on the show, there's two questions that I ask every single guest, and I haven't prompted you, so I'm totally putting you on the spot, so feel free to give me the daggers with the eyes. But the show is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, so I have for you, Robert, the half a dozen have-tos. Excuse me. So what I mean by that is I need 1 to 6 of your have-tos, something that you have experienced in your life, whether it's a concert you've seen, a trip you've taken, a meal you've eaten,
Okay.
a shirt you've purchased, a book you've read, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be food related at all, but 1 to half a dozen things that you think our listeners have to do.
Oh wow. Got to go to New Orleans.
Okay, beignets?
No,
No?
just go.
Just go to New Orleans.
Just go to New Orleans
Okay.
and stay out of the French Quarter. Like Go to New Orleans.
Okay.
It's the most unbelievable. It's the most European city outside of
Outside of Europe?
outside of Europe, in
Yeah.
North America. Go to New Orleans and just like immerse yourself in it.
Cool.
Do what they do.
Yeah.
And read Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
What else?
You don't have to do 6. People usually do like 1 and they get a flop sweat and they stop. So
yeah, I think 2 is good.
2 is good. Okay.
Yeah.
The next one I have for you then is the half a dozen haven't yets. So kind of a bucket list question.
Right.
So things that you haven't done yet or haven't experienced yet that are on your list of things that you want to do.
Okay. Well, that's easy. You know, I own 2 Italian restaurants, and I've had Campagnolo now for 10 years and Roma since 2011, 7 years. I've never been to Italy before.
Whoa!
So-
Stop traffic. so you need to go to Italy, sir.
Yeah, I need to go to Italy. That's a big one. I've never taken more than a week off in the last 25 years.
Holy mother!
So that's the biggest reason why. And I'm actually going to take my first 3-week vacation next March. I'm going to Australia. I thought if I'm going to go that far, I better take 3 weeks off.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's going to be good. But I got to go to Italy.
Is there any opportunity to tack on 2 weeks at the end of that on your way back and just hit up Sicily or Tuscany or?
Unfortunately, not this time, but I will go. I mean, I've been so concentrating on growing my businesses for so long and my career for so long, I just haven't had time to travel. But now it's slowing down a little bit. I'm 45, time to see the world a little bit.
Nice. What would be on your like have to experience or you must goes in Italy? Where are you going as far as regions?
Oh, geez, I have to go to Rome. I have to see the Vatican and everything that the Catholicism has done to Italy. I have to see that. I have to see, Tuscany, a small Italian villages up in the mountains. I want to see the truffle hunt in November. There's endless things to see.
Is there a meal that you have been kind of thinking about that you just want to stick your teeth into and just
I would love to have a nonna that I have no idea who it is cook me pasta. That's something as simple as that, like real homemade Italian. It's small little town somewhere, just eating at their little table, having some pasta.
Yeah, there's some that to me is hospitality.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is what hospitality is.
Nonna cooks for you.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Me too. The same way.
I think that's a good way to end the show there. I want to say quickly, thank you so much for taking time, and I want to celebrate you for 25 years of what I will call success. I'm sure it hasn't come easy, and it's really exciting for me as a outsider. 1, getting to meet you now, but also 2, seeing how you yourself push the boundaries and lift people up around you. And you obviously have a great mind for the industry, a passion for the industry, and it seems to me like you actually care about this space, which is so important. And like I said at the start of the interview, this industry can be very thankless. So the fact that you're still here, still opening up new and innovative spaces says a lot about you and your care for the space. So thank you so much for doing what you do for the local industry and inspiring people outside of this city as well.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
If people want to reach out, touch base, or just support you and your brands, what's the best way they can do that?
That's just, come and eat at the restaurants.
Perfect.
That's the number one way.
So give us names and addresses of all. It's five now?
5 now, yeah. So we have Campagnolo, which is at 1020 Main Street. We have a bar upstairs, Campagnolo upstairs, which is
same address, just up the stairs.
Up the stairs. And then we have Campagnolo Roma, which is in East Van at 2297 East Hastings, almost at Nanaimo. It's a small little Roman-style eatery, local place. We have Monarch Burger, which is just up the street at 936 Main Street in the old American Hotel.
Yep.
And then we have Popina, which is at 1691 Johnston Street. Not that anybody has any idea what an address is on Granville Island, but it's right beside the market, between Market and the Market and Bridges Restaurant in the parking lot. You can't miss it when you walk by it.
Yeah, and just look for the massive queue of people just waiting to spend all their money on this delicious food.
Exactly.
Thank you so much again, Robert. I really do appreciate your time and coming on and sharing your story. I want to thank you guys for tuning in as you do every single week. Be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode. And until then, guys, be good and do good. That's it, man.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
That was great.